प्रियो सज्जनों, बेंगलुरु के केम्पेगौड़ा अंतर्राष्ट्रीय हवाई अड्डे पे आपका स्वागत है। आपकी सुरक्षा के लिए आपसे निवेदन है कि कृपया अपनी कुर्सी पर बैठे रहें और अब आप अपने मोबाइल फोन का उपयोग कर सकते हैं।
Hi, I'm in Nemma, Bengaluru. By now you must have guessed who the guest for the living legend is. Come, let's meet her. A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Sunday's episode of The Living Legends, brought to you by Science Integra and Cipla. I'm your host, Dr. Amit Patki. In Season 2, we are into women influencers. But who is an influencer? An influencer is somebody who affects decision of others because of their knowledge, their position, their relationship with the following or the audience in a very distinct niche in which they actively engage. My today's guest is all this and more. Breaking stereotypes and taking a stand is second nature to her. Fearless, motivating and empowering herself and thousands others who follow her in her life's journey, she has broken the glass ceiling and achieved what others thought was impossible. She has juggled many roles with success and still managed to have a family and friends with her. Join me in welcoming our guest on Season 2 of The Living Legends, the woman influencer par excellence, Dr. Kamini Rao. A very good morning to you, madam, and thank you so much for being on our show.
Good morning. Thank you, Amit. It's a pleasure to be on your show. And being a woman influencer, yes, I would definitely try to influence the young minds, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Okay, so let's start from your childhood. You come from a family of 5 siblings. So it must have been excellent growing up with 4 other siblings. Can you tell me some childhood reminiscences, even childhood rivalry?
Well, I was the middle of the 5 siblings, which meant that it could be good or bad. So I was the middle, means I had an elder brother and an elder sister. I had a younger sister and a younger brother. So it was like Panch Pandavas. So everyone called me the Arjuna, and they all felt that my mother and father thought that I was the blue-eyed, and therefore neither did I have the blue eyes, but they all felt that my father favored me because I was absolutely bold, fearless. So anytime my father happened to be the director of health services and also occupied very important positions in the government. And every time he had any of these dignitaries coming home, the first person that would come out from the closet, that is the children, would be me. And he would proudly introduce me as a future successor of his profession. And I was wondering, why is he trying to come and box me into a doctor position when I've not even decided what I'm going to do next? And this is maybe in the 5th standard or 6th standard. And he kept ingraining into my head, Amini, you have to do medicine. And you have to be an obstetrician gynecologist, and you have to take my profession and all my patients, and I wouldn't understand a word of what he was saying. And that was the way my father was trying to sort of almost hypnotize me into taking up medicine. And with the other children, it was almost like, they didn't exist with my father. And even in medical college, even before I entered into medical college, my father got me a car. And he said, you have to travel that far to St. John's Medical College, so you need a car. And then for the others, they had to go by the public transport. So therefore, I was a pampered child, but I never allowed that to go to my head. I always looked at it with responsibility and told myself, why is he doing so much? And I must do something more. But what came with that was what I didn't like, Amit. Every time whatever I achieved, they all thought it was because of my father. And they said, you are so-and-so's daughter. Oh, what is there for you? It's all influence. So you'll always come first. So that's why your father would have influenced. And that's why, every time they said, your father's daughter. I wanted to break that glass ceiling and say that, look, I am in my own steam. And they said, are you as good as your father? I said, only better. So they didn't know what to say next. So every time I was fighting this society to tell them that I am also an individual. So when people say that they're poor and they have to come up and they need scholarships, while you're in the affluent side, you also have problems which people don't understand. If you have a very famous father, then you are always known as a kind of tukra of that person. And even if you are shining, you are always known that it is because of him that you are coming up. So much so that when I got my MRCOG in the UK, they said it's because of my father's influence. To that extent, I started laughing. So you can't take that thing off you. So while you have the best, that your father pampered you, etc., you also have to take the flack of the society that whatever you do, you'll have to work 10 times harder if you did not have a father who was famous to achieve your goal. That's what I would like to tell you.
Now, you did your post-graduation and undergraduation, and your father always hoped that you would join him in his practice. So what made you go to UK?
Well, I think if I did my post-graduation, it was just as an intermediary. I always felt that just doing post-graduation is not enough, and I wanted to do something different because my father felt that obstetrician and gynecologists are the only people who will survive in all adverse situations, because I know everyone has one appendix, so once you do an appendectomy, that patient is lost. But when a woman comes with a uterus, she can have up to 5 children also in those days. So therefore he said, obstetricians will never be out of work. So you have the children, then you have their children, and then you have the grandchildren as well. So the entire family is with you. So therefore, you are going to be in that kind of a way, a family doctor. And you're going to be an influencer for the whole family for all their decisions. So I would like you to be an obstetrician gynecologist. And I did not want to be an obstetrician gynecologist because my sister was also that. And my sister-in-law was also that. I wanted to do something different. And how many people can work in a nursing home doing the same job? And I was looking at something different because I didn't want to just stop at doing, the post-graduation and doing some deliveries. Because whatever it is, delivery after delivery, it becomes a little bit monotonous and robotic. So I wanted to explore, and I had told my father, look, give me some time. I just want to explore and come back. So he said, okay, take 5 years, go. So I had my son. I left him in Bangalore with my parents, and I went to the UK because there are 2 things that I wanted to do in UK. One is to learn the Western style of medicine delivery. And the second thing is to look at what is new over there. Because in fact, the foreign degrees have had some kind of influence on the community in India those days. Now, of course, every second person has a foreign degree from A to Z. You don't even know what those degrees mean. But in those days, MRCOG meant a lot. So I felt that I must do the MRCOG. But having done that, but what I did learn is patient care is not only about cutting. It's how you counsel patients, how do you treat patients, a patient-centric approach. And you have to treat the patient as a human being. You can't treat it as organ-centric. So therefore, I learned a lot which I did not learn in India. So my whole perspective of how you actually treat a patient changed. And even today, I would say that what I learned in the UK, I'm able to practice much better with patients. My counseling skills are much better. My convincing skills are much better. I'm not judgmental with patients. I feel that that is what we learn in the UK. And I would say that some amount of experience of Western medicine is very important for us.
I think there was an inner desire to make a mark for yourself. Perhaps you wanted to come out of the shadows and make and establish an identity of Dr. Kamini. You were trained in the UK with one of the finest peoples in fetal medicine, Professor Kypros Nicolaides. But once you decided to come back to India, you switched gears. You trained in infertility and reproductive endocrinology and came back as an IVF specialist. What made you take that decision?
Even today, having trained with Professor Kypros Nicolaides, fetal medicine has been a passion with me, and infertility is a profession. Fetal medicine in those days, I think I came very prematurely on the scene. So when I talked about fetal medicine, everyone said, "What's that?" So they looked at the pregnant woman as a patient. They did not look at the fetus and the mother as two separate individuals. And when I told them that when there is an abnormality, you've got to look at search, correct, and conserve. Whereas they said search and destroy, you can always have another child because we can't spend so much of money on having a defective child, be it a cleft lip or be it a posterior urethral valve, or even if you look at, say, Rh negative iso immunization or whatever it is. So when I told them that, look, we can correct it, we can do this, we can do that, they would not believe. They would say, look, even if I wanted to put a pigtail catheter in the bladder and then allow the baby to deliver so that the kidneys would not get damaged, they'll say, what is the use? Still, how are you sure? So people were not convinced. So the more and more I tried to convince them, the people said it's better to have another baby than to go with this, and then they would go and abort. So then I told myself, if I am going to really sit and bawl my lungs out till I'm blue in the face, I'd rather take up something which is a medico-social cause and still not be a stereotype, because infertility is something which is rampant, though it's not a public health concern, but it's an individual problem. And I can go ahead and do something to the society, because it's these women who are infertile, they're almost ostracized in society.
Absolutely.
Help them. And when I do that, I'm actually giving life to the whole family. So I thought, why don't I do that? So when I started doing that, I felt that the number of patients that came in, there was science over there, there was also a community service, and at the same time I had a happy couple at the end. So I didn't have to go and do delivery after delivery, get up at night, go and do this, because I respect obstetrics, I respect gynecology, but I felt that I had to do different. I had to do something different. And I felt that IVF also was challenging at the time when I started in 1989. And I felt that even to get water, I didn't have safe water. I had to get imported water from UK. I had to make the culture fluid myself. And, there were so many things I had to do that I felt that, it was such a uphill for me to get the pregnancies. Now, of course, everything comes packaged to you and there are distributors here. So it's much easier for you today. But when I started, it was an uphill. So when I came through the customs, and everyone saw those water. They said, "What are you carrying this water all the way here? What is the value of this water?" Then I said, "The value of this water is that I have to use it for doing cultures." They said, "So what's the value of this?" I said, "There's no value for this." They wouldn't believe it. I can't believe a doctor carrying water from UK here. You think you don't have good water here? Bisleri is there, they said. I said, Bisleri is not what I'm going to use. The people didn't realize that that was what I'm going to do. So that is how I went into infertility.
Infertility, yes. And once you came back, I think you trailblazed. You had large number of firsts to your credit, not only in South India, but in India. And I think you established yourself as one of the most successful ART consultants. But there was a slight hiccup in that. I think this is I'm going to ask you a very personal question. Sometimes when the wife does better, your husband Arvind was an accomplished surgeon. He had established himself also in Bangalore after having done his super specialities in the UK. But what efforts you took to ensure that your relationship stays stable and that you still continue your profession and look after your family?
I think I need to go back a little bit in time to say that when I actually decided to get married, Arvind happens to be my classmate from medical college and from PUC. And I had actually told him that the reason I'm getting married is that I am a career woman and you have to agree to me that career will come in the way. So if you're okay with a career woman and a person who is really going to go abroad, so I had discussed this even before marriage. And I had said to him that I am not going to be a routine housewife, nor am I going to do something routine. I want to achieve something in life. So, since he was greatly in love with me, he had said yes to everything. And I had told him that this is the only way, and I did not want to have an arranged marriage because I don't know which kind of devil I'm going to find. Because what happens is, in an arranged marriage, you don't know when they actually talk to you in the initial period, it may be fine. Then they'll just hand over the keys of some nursing home and then they'll say, okay, now come and do deliveries here. And that was not what I really wanted to do. So then I said, I must get a person who's from middle class and who values the individual rather than the money. And we should be working together so that, we understand the value of that money. And let's earn it ourselves. Why should the fathers keep giving us money? And I would like to make sure that I stand on my feet. And Arvind was also the type of person, he didn't have a lot of money. And I said that money is not important. I think we should earn and our education should not suffer. So I went first to the UK and I set up the house over there. He came 6 months afterwards. That itself shows that he was very understanding. He said, yes, when you finish, you're okay, then I'll come. And then he came. Then I said, now I'm settled, I'm in a job. So you finish your exams, then I'll start taking my exams. So that's how, with a good understanding, we were able to, because both of us could not take exams and sit and read. So one was working and one was, taking
the exams.
So that's how we did.
I managed to speak to Dr. Arvind and he has graciously recorded what he feels about his wife, Dr. Kamini Rao. So let's have that on the screen, please.
It's a privilege to talk about Kamini. However, 3 to 5 minutes is a pretty short time to talk about someone who I first saw 50 years ago, married her 42 years back, and knew her 3 years before that. The very first time I saw her, she breezed through on a two-wheeler, the traditional Indian dress amongst the boys in the first MBBS class. She was always very focused. In fact, when our teacher asked her, what would you do when you grow up? She said, I'm going to do obs and gynae and I'm going to do a subspecialty, though she did not mention infertility at that point of time. Then life moved on. We went to the UK, specialized, and when we were returning back to Bangalore, in the flight I asked her, what is it you want to do? Join your dad, who was a very well-known gynecologist and obstetrician. In fact, all her siblings belong to the same specialty. She said, I want to do infertility. And I asked her, you want to do infertility in an overpopulated country? She said, you don't realize that 15% of patients have problems with this. It's not only a medical issue, it is a social issue, it's a family issue, so on and so forth. So she singularly stuck to doing infertility practice, developed it and made it into a good center, expanded it, and currently has about 8 places all over the country. Besides offering excellence in clinical services, she was very passionate about teaching, and she has trained a lot of people, a lot of students all over the country in all forms of education related to her field. That's about her professional passion, capacity, which I don't want to dwell too much upon. We have had 2 children, we have had wonderful 3 grandchildren. And as husband and wife, we have always pursued our thoughts, careers, and agreements and disagreements very independently, though each of us have influenced each other and supported each other all throughout. There have been times when I have never agreed upon with her and vice versa, but she has been single-mindedly focused on this. I remember instances where she has challenged, and she says, unless you challenge yourself to the events and opportunities, you will never move forward. One of the greatest qualities I have found in Kamini is that she is not afraid to fail. Unlike many of us, we are worried about the success even before we start the process. So I think these are very important characters of an individual. I also worked with another mercurial entrepreneur in this country, Kiran Mazumdar Shah, for over 10 years. And once in the Business India interview, they asked me, how come you are able to work with Kiran, who has very passionate about her job, grown up in her career, and so on and so forth? The reply I gave was that I was married to Kamini. And in fact, much later on, somebody asked me, how come you are able to cope with all the activities which Kiran has done, and how do you manage to live with Kamini? I said, it is because I work for Kiran Mazumdar. So we have had our ups and downs, but she has been always very supportive. One part of her life which many people do not know is that she spends a lot of time with the family, be it myself, be it the children, takes care of them, and the grandchildren nowadays. I have no doubt at all there cannot be many people like her, and I have been very fortunate to have got married to her and lived with her quite happily for the last 42 odd years. It is superfluous to say I wish her all the best, but she is the type of person who will work and continue to work till her last breath. I wish her all the very best and good health. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Dr. Rao, that was a very touching speech by Dr. Arvind. Do you have any take on that?
Yes, I think, in a marriage, I feel that even though I have many ideas coming in, it's very important for someone, as a partner, to keep you grounded, so that, you realize that all your ideas cannot actually bear fruit. And therefore, he looks and selects which of these ideas can actually be taken forward. So, as the going goes, it is always behind a successful man, there is a woman, but in my case, behind my success, I would say that Arvind has always been supportive and he has actually looked at all the other kind of loose ends to tie up. Otherwise, it would never have allowed me to do the work that I could do. So I would like to thank him personally for all the support he's given, and also the family has stood behind me. Many times they've not seen me, but at the same time they've stood very strongly behind me, every one of them. So this will be an opportunity to thank all of them. That I'm able to come in as a legend on your program is because of the family. That's what I mean.
I know it takes two to tango, but I'm sure there must have been a lot of efforts from your part to make sure that all goes well at home and in your career. I think this is all that we all need to learn. We all need to introspect on our relationship with our spouses, with our business partners. So I'm going to take a break, ladies and gentlemen. Let's all introspect in this break. But don't go back, because I'm going to come back again and we are going to be in conversation with Dr. Kamini Rao after the break.
Caring for life has always been the guiding purpose of everything we do at Cipla. We constantly work towards ensuring access to high quality and affordable medicines. We've been trusted by healthcare professionals and patients across geographies for more than 8 decades. Cipla began its journey in women's health in India in 1979. Since our very first launch, we've been tireless in our efforts towards meeting the growing needs of women's health in India. You and Cipla, together, we have come a long way, creating the future and continuing the legacy with your trusted partner in providing accessibility to high quality and innovative products with patient centricity at our core for a healthy womanhood.
Welcome back after the break. You are with me and I'm in conversation with Dr. Kamini Rao on this episode of The Living Legends, brought to you by Science Integra and Cipla. Dr. Rao, you had once made a statement, "It is not a sin to be young." And you proved it to all by being perhaps one of the youngest Foxy presidents. And you also worked for the youth during your years. Tell me some highlights of your Foxy presidential years.
Amit, I must tell you that I'm still the youngest Foxy president.
Okay.
But I don't want to be known only as a youngest Foxy president, because I think there is more to the presidential year than trying to become a Foxy president to become a past president 1 year later and join the club of past presidents. I had decided that I wanted to become a president because I felt that there was a block for the youngsters to come in. It had become a club of a few people, and the same people would gallivant around giving lectures everywhere. And I felt that the youngsters was not getting a chance. So when I actually stood for elections, I had nothing to lose. I was a wild card entry. Nobody knew me that well. All that I knew was that I had this stuff in me, the science in me, and I had gone across the country, length and breadth of the country, lecturing. And in those days, we had all those slides. We didn't even have these PowerPoint presentations. So they costed a lot. So it was very, very difficult to have a slide projector everywhere. So I did go across everywhere. It did cost a lot of money. But I thought to myself that this is how I'm going to go. So wherever I went and talked to the postgraduate students. So I sort of perhaps woke something in them to vote. I said, your vote is important and your vote is for me. So they said, what do you mean? There is a body called FOXI. They said, yes, we are members of that. Then please vote. So then, I educated them that you should vote for me, and then that is how things will change. And so when I actually stood for the elections, it was literally a white card because there were 4 people standing for election that year, and it was a record. And I said, I don't mind. You also stand, let 5 people stand or 10 people, but I am going to stand and I am going to win. Because I had told myself, I am going to stand when I want to do something. I don't want somebody to tell me you stand after 2 years because, I am getting old or something like that. So the point there was that you have to make a difference. You want to stand, you work for it, and then you come forward and make a difference. And what had gone in my mind was, many a time I found a lot of talent got wasted only because of the hierarchical behavior. And when I got into the FOXI, I realized that I could make a change in that 1 year. So I had decided that I must take something that will make a difference as safe abortion saves lives, because 13% of maternal mortality. So therefore, let me have this manual vacuum aspiration syringe so that it will go across the country, and even in this primary health centers, they could actually put that in. The National Family Planning Program also introduced it into that into their basket. And then, of course, we had the FOXI oration, and we had the FOXI, because those who couldn't get direct entry into the FOXI conferences, there was a FOXI in all the 4 zones. So I wanted all the 4 zones to be able to get one orator so that they could at least get a direct entry into the FOXI arena. So these people would then be recognized, and that's how they would come in. So in a way, I was trying to get some pathway for all these people to get in, and I felt very nice about it. And I thought that if I can get that, and I would be sort of synonymous with youth, I felt that this is also very important. I also thought that I must have education, and I must see that education really, comes to the fore. And this is where I felt that all these workshops on the safe abortion saves lives must be done by other people, and therefore give an opportunity for all the others to be able to come forward and to run one workshop. So I only attended the training of trainers workshop, and after that I gave it to everybody. So what it really meant is that I don't have to gallivant around, and I don't have to sit and show this thing, because I personally don't do any abortions. But it doesn't matter what I do or not. What does the country require? I'm not actually going to try and box myself into anything. It's what the country needs. And that is what I wanted the public to know. And therefore, I felt to myself that there was a lot of change that had occurred. A lot of youngsters got a chance. There was a lot of workshops going on. And I felt that in that short period of time, I was able to bring a change. So in short, what I do feel is that once you do something, you make that change, you must leave that position and not hanker on that position, and let other people also get into the FOXI and let them bring ideas, rather than to stick on to this thing like musical chairs and go into one position to the next position. Because what happens is then new ideas don't come in.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Hybrid of ideas to come in, and enjoy the youth to come forward.
And I think that one thing that Dr. Kamini Rao will be always remembered is for the connect that she had with the youth, and for those hugely successful UA conferences and UA orations that are happening now. And look at the floodgates have been opened, and we are having youth from all over the country vying for very distinguished positions, not only in FOXI but in various other organizations. I think you took up the presidentship in ISAR also in troubled times. And I think that was your leadership qualities that you showed. You brought academics in forefront in ISAR. And I think you firmly established the journal, which is the mark of an organization, and you brought about a huge change in ISAR. So tell me some of your highlights as president of the Indian Society of Assisted Reproduction, ISAR, as we commonly call it.
Yes. I did not actually ask for the presidentship. It was thrust upon me because nobody wanted to take it up. It was in the doldrums. So then I said, why me? They said, only you can resurrect it. So I said, okay, fair enough. I love challenges. I'll take it up. So I started one with some regional conferences, like just on the endometrium or the fallopian tube. And I started giving each of these, regional societies and chapters, why don't you do this conference? The second thing I thought is we don't have a journal and we must have a good journal, and I don't want it to lark around without indexing. So if I want to have a journal, I told the managing committee, the executive committee, that I need 10 years, nobody to interfere. So even before I started it, I laid down the rules. At 10 years, nobody is going to interfere with the journal. 5 years I'm going to groom somebody else, and the next 5 years is the person I groom who will take over. So 10 years. So in that time, I would like to get it indexed, and I would like to see that it's very, very stable and it will have an impact factor as well. So this is what I did. I got the journal, and in a period of 2 years, I got it PubMed indexed, which is a feat in itself.
Yes.
But that can only happen when I have everyone's cooperation. And I was able to get that cooperation because I had laid the rules, because there was no journal before that. But having got that journal, now everyone is happy that we've got a journal of standard, which is PubMed Index. And then after that, I handed it over to Madhuri Patil, and she did an excellent job. And what I would like to say right now, that we have the next two people also who have taken over are also excellent. So what I really want to do is that when you have a journal, and that is academia, you should not allow politics to come into it. You should not allow that the editor should be able to raise funds for it and do so many other kind of mazdoor kaam, which will dilute the academia. So therefore, I feel that what is going on with the journal is very good, and I want it to go from strength to strength. And I want to see that this journal will be one of the real great contributions that ISAR will make to the international bodies as well. As it is, it's doing well. And I feel that we should not be getting any and every article being published in the journal, but this really should have that kind of standing. And it has. And I'm very proud of this journal. And I would like to look at this journal with fond memories that this is something that I gave back to ISAR. I enjoyed my tenure of 2 years in ISAR, and I'm very happy that when I left ISAR, it's a vibrant society and everyone is vying for every post in ISAR. Before that, there was nobody to take up any post over there. Which only means to say that it's now very vibrant, it's very competitive, and I'm happy that it is moving from strength to strength.
I think in your year, ISAR got popularized, and the journal, I'm proud to say, has a big impact value, and the articles that are published in our ISAR journal have got hundreds of citations once the article is published. So that just goes to see that our journal is not only read in India and surrounding countries, but it is a worldwide read and appreciated journal. I think you also have a very good quality of not only moving, but taking with you all your colleagues. Today, I have Dr. Lata Venkatraman, one of your senior colleagues from Bangalore, who has expressed what she and her colleagues in Bangalore feel about you. So let's have Dr. Lata on the screen, please.
It's such a pleasure to talk about Dr. Kamini Rao, whom I have known for nearly 30 years, and she is such a leader and a game changer, because even in infertility, as we all know, she is a pioneer, but she has taught many youngsters it is not only the dedication to her patients, but dedication to teaching. It has changed many doctors' lives and, of course, many patients' lives. And also, she has been such a good entrepreneur in the sense she has monetized the infertility and also the Milan, which has been a good example of an entrepreneurship. So that is a very unique combination of a very dedicated doctor, entrepreneur, and a leader who has inspired many youngsters to become fertility specialists.
That was Dr. Lata Venkatraman from Bangalore expressing her views about you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here and join me back after the break when I'm in conversation with Dr. Kamini Rao. Don't go anywhere.
Caring for life has always been the guiding purpose of everything we do at Cipla. We constantly work towards ensuring access to high quality and affordable medicines. We've been trusted by healthcare professionals and patients across geographies for more than 8 decades. Cipla began its journey in women's health in India in 1979. Since our very first launch, we've been tireless in our efforts towards meeting the growing needs of women's health in India. You and Cipla, together, we have come a long way, creating the future and continuing the legacy with your trusted partner in providing accessibility to high quality and innovative products with patient centricity at our core for a healthy womanhood.
Welcome after the break, and we are in conversation with Dr. Kamini Rao on this episode of The Living Legends, brought to you by Science Integra and Cipla. Dr. Rao, you have often said that it is not a crime to earn money the right way, and I think you practiced that. You built up an image, a brand of Dr. Kamini Rao. You helped to set up Milan, and Milan served in a way so that your expertise was not only restricted to the city of Bangalore, but Milan spread over the length and breadth of India, and along with that, you offered your services to women across India. Milan also served to promote and spread education of infertility services. As doctors, very few of us have been successful entrepreneurs. Tell me, how did you manage all this? Tell me some of your secrets.
What is important here is that you can't, be a doctor doing only practice, because there is something called as an exhaustion syndrome. Because if you are going to do infertility, then you can't do, say, 10 egg pickups, 50 egg pickups a day. Because then you become monotonous, you start thinking through your thalamus or your spinal cord or cauda equina, and you become robotic. So you get wasted. What you need to do is, once you are adept in doing a procedure, you must see that the procedure spreads laterally, and there are a lot of people that will be able to learn from you. There are two reasons that I say this. One is a selfish reason, that I can make 2 and 2 22, because I can get doctors to do all that, and in a day I can achieve in multiples of what as an individual I can achieve, and I can achieve the same result. I've always felt doctors per se are highly individualistic, and they are not, a mentality where they can take people together. I've also felt that even my father used to say, this is my patient, I have to do her Caesar, because what will they say? This is so and so, and this is in this position. I always used to tell my father, so what if this person is a minister's wife? How is her uterus different from somebody else? There's no difference. So when I used to say that, my father would say, you'll never know because, you've not reached that stage. I said, even when I reach that stage, I'm not going to change my mind. And that's exactly what I did. I always said that whatever I knew very well, I would give it to the others. And right in the beginning, I said, when I'm doing IVF, even if these are precious pregnancies and this is first IVF, second IVF, third IVF, I've always felt that what is the point in going on repeating the same thing all over again? Don't you get fed up? But I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 doctors don't get fed up. And what happens is, they are like those 9-11 shops in the UK that you find. They open the shop, the same fellow actually gets that goods from wherever it is, and then he goes to the till, and then he actually. So the same thing can be done much easier if you've got more people on the job. You can service more customers, and that's exactly what I did. I got many of the students. I made students actually work. They learned. Patients got treated very well. I only told the patients that you have the chapa of Kamini Rao. So Kamini Rao will be looking after you, and ultimately you need a baby. Whether Kamini Rao does it or XYZ does it, what difference does it matter? At the end of it, you need your baby. So if there's a problem, she's there at your service and she'll look after you. So they said, okay, fine, I'm happy about it. And I'm not going to come and do your Caesar. I'll have people who are trained by me to do your Caesar. So they said, why? I said, because the Caesars can be done by anybody, but in the morning, I'll come and say hello to you. So it took a long time for people to accept it. And many doctors also said, how can you do it? But this saga started long back. From the day I arrived from UK into India, I said, I'm going to teach. So even though there was a lot of opposition to that, including my father, saying that you spend so much of money, you learn so much, so you have to earn from what you're doing, and if you teach everyone, there will be local competition, etc. I said, my father, the only competition I find is myself. I have to be better tomorrow than I am today. There is no other competition that I can look. And if there is a competition, so be it. Let us complement rather than compete. If I have taught that person, at some point of time will come to me for help if there is a difficult case. And that is what I want to do. I don't want to do routine cases, even if it is IVF. Let my mind think. Let my mind get challenged. And there is where I find this. And I don't want to run behind that money. Let the money come behind me. And this is what I have said, and I always maintain that is how I am. And so, a lot of students who've been with me, who've learned with me, have made a lot of mistakes. Like, for example, nicking the bladder or causing a lot of bleeding while doing an egg pickup. I would have also done that. So, why should I blame them? It is my job to help them out and give them courage. So, what I did was to give them courage and say, do the next ovary. Okay? Don't worry, we'll sort that out. So I said, I won't even go and stop the bleeding. You stop the bleeding, I'll stand here. So I gave them that courage. And they were very happy. Now they're excellent IVF specialists, and they're having their own IVF centers across the country. And even today, they remember these instances. And that's how you're able to sort of get them as consultants. What I don't want to do, Amit, is I don't want to create followers. I want to create leaders. I want to see that they become independent consultants. I don't want them to be assistants somewhere else after they work with me. And that is how I look at these people. So when they have any issues, they can always pick up the phone. I'm always only a phone call away. And that's how I did. So when I brought up all these, brand Kamini Rao was a big brand. So I said, let me put these shares across. So I sold this 50% and then worked for 7 years and I sold the remaining. So therefore, to say that I'll die with my boots on and I'll hand it to my children and my grandchildren, why will a patient want to go to your child, for example? He may say that, okay, you're okay, but I don't want to go to your daughter or son. Then there's no point in saying I have given my practice when there will be nothing for that child. It's better to monetize and give the money to them, and they may not even want a practice, they may want to have a good life. So this is exactly what I have done. Monetized it, and then I'm just now, it's a passion for me to do. But at the same time, education is a passion for me, and I would like to educate a lot of people. And I do not believe today for everything you have to look at how much am I getting out of it. The moment you start looking at it, that entire, the fizz of that whole thing will go away. You've got to have that passion in it, and the rest of these things will follow. And I've always followed my dream that I must see that anyone who has an inclination to learn, then I have a passion to teach.
I think, to put it very plainly, to be a successful entrepreneur, you not only need to have a sharp mind, but I think you need to have a large heart to accommodate a lot of people. And I think the strength is the number of people that are with you. Today I have Dr. Faizan Engineer, founder of Cytotech Cancer Hospitals, with whom you are very closely associated. I think you look after their fertility preservation program in that hospital, and he very graciously consented to speak about you. So let's have Dr. Faizan Engineer on the screen, please.
Dr. Kamini Rao has been a close friend of many years, a remarkable human being. Although she is well known and a renowned doctor and entrepreneur, I've found her to be a down-to-earth person, always willing to help, and with a certain generosity of spirit. She used to practice in the UK and then realized that there were many women in India who needed IVF at an affordable price and in a more accessible way. So she came back to India. She couldn't get a single patient for the first 10 months, but she persevered, and throughout her life she has never given up. She has always persevered, and I think this is an important element of her success. I have personally known her as an entrepreneur, as an investor in my hospital. SiteCare is a cancer hospital in Bangalore, where she invested because she wanted to push the frontiers of science and preserve fertility in cancer patients. So there are many things she's passionate about. Apart from being a great doctor, she's passionate about research, and she's particularly passionate about education. I think our country has produced many successful entrepreneurs, but only a few who have pioneered an entire industry and created institutions whose influence go even beyond their own. So she is the founder of Milan, which is an extremely successful chain of, I believe now about 24 IVF centers. But additionally, her proteges have set up IVF centers all over the country. So I think this combination of not only being an entrepreneur, but also institutionalizing a whole new field in our country is remarkable. And I think therefore all the awards she has received, the Padma Shri, various state awards, are really well deserved in that respect. I also think of Dr. Rao as an inspiration for many, especially for women who want to work, who want to be successful. I think she was one of the earlier ones to break the glass ceiling in her field. And even now she runs a foundation which is educating and empowering several hundred girls. Her story, I believe, is an inspiration for young people. There's much to learn from her. I would say never give up, a great work ethic, always work to the highest quality standards, and work in a very ethical way. And we have had the pleasure of Dr. Rao speaking at many of our board interactions, and she's also been a great inspiration to doctors in our hospital. She's always pushing them, asking them to stretch their imagination in terms of how far they can go with their practice, with their research, becoming entrepreneurs in their own right. So I think she has been a great inspiration to us as an institution, as a hospital, but also to the medical fraternity within SightCare.
Dr. Rao, your take on what Dr. Engineer spoke about you?
Well, I think I was there in SightCare. I helped them talking to many of the doctors on how to market yourself and how to brand yourself. Because many of them are very good in their specialty. But today, a doctor who is going to be very popular has to also market themselves. Gone are the days when you said that I will sit in the hospital and the patients will come to you. I think you have to also market yourself, and the way you market yourself is with ethics. And you also have to be able to, be in the media to be able to tell them what exactly it is. Sometimes I find that doctors fight shy of all these things. And working in government hospitals, you don't have the time to give to patients, and therefore, nor do you have the infrastructure to be able to treat patients to the highest degree. And in the private sector, the doctors, even though you have all the infrastructure, but doctors don't know how to market themselves. So therefore, this interaction was to tell them how to market themselves, and they were very impressed, saying that, how do you do this? But I came in an era when we did not have any marketing. We didn't have any of these kind of things of social media, etc. I personally went across to the societies, particularly like Rotary and JC and lots of women organizations, and I started speaking to them on very mundane subjects, like a normal menstrual cycle, for example, or a polycystic ovarian disease. And there was great interest in that. Of course, we didn't have Google at that time. And therefore, people started, sitting up and sort of listening to it. I think that is what I think Dr. Farzan must have appreciated and spoken about.
I think as your name and fame grew, you were awarded the State Rajya Sabha Achievement Award, a large number of Lifetime Achievements Award, and even the highest state award, the Padma Shri. But along with all this recognition and accolades, you realized that there was a lot of responsibility that you owed to the country. So tell me, how did you give it back? Because that is what something that we all want to do, give it back to the society.
There are 3 or 4 things that I would like to say. One is education, and I would say that in terms of education, I have looked at a lot of fellowship programs, plus short courses and long courses, medium courses, both in embryology and in reproductive medicine. I have been continuously teaching so that I can expand the services of reproductive medicine to the tier 2 and 3 cities, which has successfully happened. And if you see the number of IVF centers mushrooming, and if you see the number of personnel in these centers, you will find that many of them, you will find that they have doctors who are trained with me. Second thing is that whatever you do, it should have an impact on society. So when I actually do anything here, I actually look at cutting edge. So if you are looking at, say, at a uterine transplant, for example, or if you are looking at other kind of things like ovarian rejuvenation, etc., can we make IVF cheaper for people? And can you look at this thing? So that was the time when we got the ESI to recognize us, and we were able to do IVF at 65,000 rupees. The other thing is that we run an organization called Kamini Cares. which means that it's a foundation which actually looked at education for girls. So we do this, educating girls, and also a lot of other general education for these girls. And find that this is what we need in our country, and we need to promote this more and more. A lot of vocational training is also what I do. But most of this charitable work, I don't bring it to the forefront because I feel that, I don't want to get mileage out of that. What I really want to do is do a lot of all this, because the more you look at Padma Shri or you look at Rajyotsava awards or you look at a lot of these awards, it's just that the community has placed a lot of responsibility on you, and it is this responsibility that is on your shoulders rather than to go around and say Padma Shri Dr. Kamini Rao. I would like to say that I am humbled that the government has showered this responsibility on me, and I want to fulfill it more and more. And every time I get an opportunity when I can teach or I can go and serve, I would love to do it. So we've done a lot of camps, camps as well. So this is my way of going forward and helping out. And whenever the government has come forward, yes, I've gone there. So, I've been on the board and the chairman of the ART Regulation Committee. So when that comes in, obviously the surrogacy board for the state, I will be on it. And so I will be helping to shape how these regulatory bodies will be going ahead and doing. So in more ways than one, wherever I get an opportunity, I would be able to go and help them out or create opportunities and then be able to serve the community.
I think you have inspired a large number of young generation of doctors. In your introduction, I said you have juggled many roles. That of a daughter, a wife, mother, mother-in-law, a grandmother now, doctor, teacher, mentor, entrepreneur, and a businesswoman. Tell me which is the most difficult role to play.
Most difficult role to play is that of balancing the family, because there is no written rules and regulations where you can learn and you can follow those SOPs and do it. On the spot decisions that you have to take, and looking at family time, making sure that you don't eat into family time, and looking at the moods of all the children, making sure that you attend to all these moods and looking at their needs and sorting their needs out. So it does require a lot of effort in that area. So I find that being a mother, being in the family and family time, that is the most difficult task. So those who say they are housewives and they look after a family, I would say Ma tujhe salam, because that's the most difficult task. Professionally, you will be able to achieve a lot, because you see, the thing is, the best critics for you is your family. They will tell you without fear what to think of you. And sometimes you're scared to even listen to what they think of you. But, the sycophants outside in the profession will not tell you truly what to think of. So I would say that is the biggest thing.
When you look back at your own life, any regrets or anything that you thought you would want to change to make it a more beautiful picture?
I think no, because I think at every stage I have thought through and I have said, okay, fair enough, I had this choice, that choice. So I did make calculated risks. I did fail in some ventures, but as I said before, I am not afraid of failing, because just as success begets success, failures are also a stepping stone to success. So if you do not fail, that means you've not tried enough. So I would say any amount of failures that I've had has been rich in experience, and I think I've learned from it, and I hope that I don't make the same mistake again. I would say that regret comes only because you feel I could have done it better. But then going forward, you would have corrected yourself. And therefore, making mistakes should be part of everyone's life. Nobody is perfect. I have made mistakes, and I am sure everyone else has also made mistakes. So if I look back at my life, I think it's rich with experience, it's rich with faults, it's rich with mistakes, and it's rich with successes and failures. So I think I've lived a total life of 360 degrees. That's what I'd like to say.
You have accomplished so much in your life, but I'm sure there must be some unfinished desires.
Yes. I would say that I would like to make IVF affordable to the people, irrespective of caste, creed, status, or financial status. And I would like to see that this gets into the government and the insurance companies. And I'd like to see that this gets distributed so that the cost of IVF should not be in the hands of the privileged few. I would also like to see that in the MD courses, that our MD courses will change so that at least 1 year of their 3-year MD courses should be for an elective thing of either gynecological oncology, urology, or endocrinology, infertility, ultrasound, or fetal medicine, so that we don't have to go running around taking courses in ultrasound, endoscopy, and then their whole life spent going through courses after courses, while my colleagues in the IT sector are earning 5-figure salaries. So if I can do this during my lifetime, I think I would have achieved the last leg of my life.
I think that is really brilliant thinking, to have the specialized courses incorporated into your postgraduate training, because ultimately everybody has a desire of doing some niche practice or some specialty practice. We are in COVID times, and this has caused a large amount of hardship to all of us. But as being somebody with a very positive mind, what is your take on this COVID times that we are all facing?
I think COVID is something that I look at which is both positive and even more positive, because it has taught us to sit back and invest in our family. It has taught back and made us sit in the house and actually look at our house and see how many of the things that we've bought we never used. And we've been buying things and we never knew that it was already there. And also to clean up the house and look at the hygiene. When was the time I actually washed my hands when it was not required 10 times in a day? I mean, look at the hygiene it's brought into us. It's brought a lot of change in the way we eat our food, healthy food. And it's looked at, food cooked at home. Because most of the people would eat outside, but now you'll see that most of the people eat at home. They're always looking at, is this cleaned or not, and that's cleaned or not. So I think, it's brought a discipline within ourselves, which I'm sure we would have not done. I only hope that after COVID, we continue with this discipline. Look at the social distancing. It's so important that this social distancing also brings in a sense of sanitization. And I feel that this sanitization is also very important. In fact, even coughing and sneezing, it's important for us to cover our mouth, even if there was no COVID. But now all the more important that you should. And what is wrong in that? So I think if we are able to do this and continue, it will only improve our hygiene. And I think in the beginning we felt that it was a burden.
On getting something positive out of all that what is happening in the last 6 months, I think you are very right. If we all learn something from this about hygiene, and I think it's got all of us to introspect, to know our family members more better and more closely, because we have spent so much time with each other. Do you have any message for our young doctors?
A message to the young doctors is to be brave and bold. Do not be afraid to question. If you do not get your answers through one doctor, please go to the other. Do not say that this is the end of your career, because when the doors are closed, the windows open. And if you want to really reach your goal, perseverance is very important. And if you don't persevere, then you've lost the plot. I would say to all of them that you have to work hard. If you fail, it's in you. If you succeed, it's in you. So don't blame anybody else. If you're going to want something from somebody, you've got to also give. Don't say that somebody gives you, then that chain has not to be broken. So you must give to the next generation. Many people learn, but when it is coming to teaching somebody else, they always say, no, I will not teach. And that's where the chain is broken. So whatever you learn from somebody, learn to give it to somebody else. So knowledge, blood and money must always be in circulation. Therefore, my young colleagues, please continue the chain, please teach, please learn, and that's the only way the community will grow.
Friends, I have known Dr. Kamini Rao for many years, but one interaction has made a mark on my personality and has truly influenced me. That was in the year 2005, Seoul, South Korea. I was a recipient of the Asia Oceania Dr. Shah Ratnam Young Gynecologist Award, and I had accompanied Dr. Kamini Rao for a sightseeing one evening. The next day, I was to make my presentation for this award, and amongst the 15 awardees, in addition to the Shah Ratnam Award, I was awarded the best presenter for that evening. After the function, Dr. Rao came from the audience and gave me a gift, a Korean candle stand. It was the same candle stand that I had seen the evening before, but had not opted to buy it because it was very expensive. She had seen me doing back and forth into the shop, and without my knowledge had gone back and purchased it for me. I think that is what an influencer is. She played a huge role in me understanding how to interact with my juniors. And to this date, I reward my juniors whenever they have excelled, maybe in their studies, maybe in their presentations, and maybe in the multiple awards that they get. This is the candle stand that Dr. Rao presented to me. And after all these years, I still use it every day. So Dr. Rao, you have been an influencer to me and to thousands of young doctors, and you have taught us how to lead life. Thank you once again, Dr. Rao, for joining us on this show. So thank you very much, friends, for joining us and tuning in this Sunday. Be with us next Sunday for another woman influencer in this series of the Living Legends. Be safe, take care of yourself and your family, and be with us next Sunday. See you.